concerns, confessions, and unexpected arrivals, the wife rushes to her husband's side. "Aunt Audrey," Liberty called out, but Audrey silenced her with a gesture, directing her cold gaze towards Jessica. Feeling intimidated, Jessica stammered, "Mrs. Stone." Audrey turned to her daughter, Elisa, and instructed her to call the family bodyguards to bring all the luxury cars from their garage. She wanted Liberty to ride in each of them, to show their wealth. Hank, eager to defuse the situation, apologized and promised they would leave the shop immediately. Hank's mind was preoccupied with work challenges, and he didn't dare confront Audrey directly. He took the clothes from Jessica's hand and returned them to the clerk before escorting Jessica out of the store. Once they were outside, Jessica broke free from Hank's grip and vented her anger. She accused Hank of not standing up for her and prioritizing their son over her. She also belittled Liberty's newfound wealth and expressed her desire to cause trouble for Serenity. Hank tried to placate Jessica, assuring her that he would take her to a jewelry store to pick out a wedding ring and buy whatever she liked. He mentioned Serenity's skills in kickboxing and expressed his longing for Sonny, wanting to spend more time with his son. Suspicious of Jessica's intentions towards Serenity's husband, Hank asked if she planned to seduce him. Jessica feigned anger and reassured him that she only had eyes for him but vowed to make Serenity's marriage difficult. Hank warned her that Zachary would not be easily swayed, but Jessica was determined to find a woman with irresistible looks to become a love rival for Serenity's husband. Hank felt a bit embarrassed, as he himself had succumbed to temptation in the past. As they walked, he embraced Jessica and assured her that Liberty's newfound aunt did not mean she would be wealthy, as her aunt had her own children to consider. He also shared the news that Liberty had resigned from Lewis & Co. after facing difficulties there, orchestrated by him. "Even if I give Liberty more than $1 million, she'll probably spend it all on buying a house, but she still won't be able to find a job. Unless her aunt continues to support her, she won't be as happy as we are," Hank remarked, causing Jessica's mood to improve. $1 million isn't even enough for a down payment on a house in downtown Witherspoon. One of my friends bought a small, second-hand apartment near a school district for $5 million. "It's only 700 square feet, and it shocked me," Jessica commented, realizing that without snatching Hank away, she wouldn't have been able to own a house in downtown Witherspoon based on her income. Hank was aware of the exorbitant housing prices, and he felt fortunate that he had made his purchase early. If he were to buy a house now, it would be challenging to find a good location, let alone one in a desirable school district. Jessica's jealousy of Liberty having a wealthy aunt was quelled by Hank's reassurances. He mentioned that Mrs. Stone was a strong woman who disliked weak and incompetent individuals. He believed that if Liberty couldn't stand on her own, Mrs. Stone wouldn't assist her or provide her with money. Hank urged Jessica to let go of her envy. Unbeknownst to the couple, someone had been following them and recording their conversation. A chance encounter with such individuals affected their mood. After the incident, Liberty simply acted as an escort for Audrey and the others. Although she pretended to be indifferent, seeing her ex-husband with his mistress still hurt her deep inside. She felt that she had wasted her life as a devoted wife focused on managing the household. Liberty realized that she needed to be kinder to herself, acknowledging that she had neglected her own needs. She rarely bought new clothes or skincare products for herself, always prioritizing Hank and Sunny. She had been concerned about Hank's financial burdens, but he lavished his money on Jessica instead. It made her reflect on the saying, "If you can't bear to spend the money earned by your man, someone else will spend it for you." Additionally, Liberty regretted her weight gain and blamed herself for neglecting her appearance. She had let herself go due to the comfortable life after marriage and assumed that everything would be stable after having a child. Now, she realized the need to successfully lose weight and regain her confidence. In the evening, the ladies returned to the Stone residence, where they were greeted by the housekeeper who handed Serenity a small bag. Audrey instructed the housekeeper to give it to Serenity. When she opened the bag, she found 2 pins and a small note, all wrapped in black packaging. Serenity first examined the small note and read its contents. "These 2 are recorder pins. Listen to the recordings when no one is around. Josh Buchan." It was a gift sent by Josh, piquing her curiosity. She decided to wait until she was alone in her room after dinner to listen to the recordings. When Audrey asked about the gift, Serenity casually replied that it was a pin she wanted to use, sent by Mrs. Lane. Audrey didn't press further, and Serenity eagerly finished dinner to join her sister in bathing Sunny. Their rooms were conveniently located next to each other, arranged by Audrey to foster a sense of reliance between the sisters. Once Serenity returned to her room and closed the door, she quickly opened the black bag and retrieved the 2 recorder pins. Sitting on the sofa, she listened intently to the recording. As she heard Jessica and Hank's voices, Serenity realized that it's a conversation they had after their chance encounter earlier that day. She marveled at Josh's ability to capture their conversation on record. If Josh were there, he would undoubtedly take the opportunity to accept her compliments. In truth, Josh was simply being nosy. The person he had sent to gather evidence of Hank's affair was still tailing him since he hadn't called off the surveillance. Hence, the conversation was recorded. "I'll find a woman with the face of an angel and the body of a devil to seduce Zachary." Serenity scoffed at Jessica's words to Hank. If Zachary can be seduced by another woman, then he wouldn't be Zachary. She had experienced firsthand how steadfast and composed he was. Even when she was drunk, he didn't give in to temptation while helping her change clothes. He was a man of a different caliber compared to scum like Hank. Serenity took out her phone, opened WhatsApp, replayed the recorded conversation, and sent it to Zachary as voice messages. Soon, Zachary called her, but she declined the call and initiated a video call instead. She missed him and wanted to see him, as well as check on his health. Serenity's concern for him was growing each day. Zachary hesitated before answering the video call. When the call connected, he positioned the phone in a way that only his chest was visible. Serenity voiced her disappointment, asking him to raise the phone and not hide from her. Zachary, enduring his discomfort, spoke in a low tone, "I'm working now." "What is it?" "I'm listening." It's so late, and you're still working. Have you had dinner? And why are you working when you have a cold? How much does your boss pay you? Why do you have to work so hard? Nothing is more important than your health, Serenity scolded him, unable to contain her concern. Zachary chuckled and replied, "Is my wife taking control of me now? I don't have an appetite and don't feel like eating. I'm working hard so that I can finish my work early and come back to you." Serenity expressed her concern, urging him to take care of his health even if he didn't have an appetite. She insisted that he pick up his phone so she could see him. However, Zachary didn't move, causing Serenity to get mad. She warned him that if he didn't let her see him, she wouldn't talk to him for the rest of the year and would ignore his calls and messages. She began counting, and by the time she reached 1, Zachary's face appeared on the screen. Serenity was taken aback by his appearance. His usually cold and indifferent face was now flushed an abnormal red, and he looked miserable. She immediately questioned him about seeing a doctor and expressed her worry. Zachary, propping his head with his hand, admitted that he had taken a cold medicine from the drugstore, but it wasn't very effective, and he might have been treating the wrong symptoms. When Serenity asked if he was still in the office, Zachary clarified that he was in the company-provided apartment for headquarters personnel. He explained that the apartment had a study, and he was currently at his desk there. He had thought that the cold would clear up after taking the medicine, but his temperature continued to rise, making him increasingly uncomfortable. Zachary realized that he had underestimated his ability to fight off the cold. Serenity's concern grew, and she urgently instructed him to go to the hospital immediately. She emphasized that he should not drive the company car but instead take a taxi. She was anxious and worried about him, feeling that a grown man like him should know how to take care of his cold and be aware of his rising temperature. Zachary, unable to hang on any longer, abruptly ended the call to prevent Serenity from witnessing him faint. He then attempted to call the general manager of the branch to request assistance in going to the hospital. However, before he could reach the manager, his vision darkened, and he collapsed onto the table. On Serenity's end, she was startled when Zachary suddenly hung up on her. Concerned, she sent him a voice message, but he didn't respond. She called him again, but he didn't answer. Worried that he may have fainted due to his heavy workload and lack of rest, compounded by their recent argument, Serenity decided she had to find him. She rushed to leave the room but hesitated when her hand touched the doorknob. Something else required immediate attention. Zachary's fever could harm his brain before she could reach him. In a moment of realization, she immediately called Jasmine, knowing that Zachary and Josh were colleagues and that Josh had connections. She urgently asked Jasmine for Josh's phone number, explaining that Zachary had a high fever and might have fainted. She requested that Josh contact someone there to take Zachary to the hospital and also make arrangements for her to go there as soon as possible. Jasmine quickly handed the phone to Josh, who was sitting across from her. Josh, assuming Serenity was calling about the recording, answered the call. However, Serenity informed him of Zachary's condition, explaining that he had a cold and a high fever, possibly leading to his fainting. She asked Josh to contact someone to ensure Zachary's hospitalization and requested arrangements for her own travel to his location. Josh maintained a serious expression, although he couldn't help but feel frustrated by Zachary falling ill at such a crucial time. He assured Serenity that he would arrange for someone to drive Zachary to the hospital and make travel arrangements for her as well. He advised her to pack her things and be ready to leave in half an hour. Serenity expressed her gratitude to Josh for his assistance. She recognized his concern for Zachary's well-being and his willingness to help in this situation. Following their conversation, Serenity got up and retrieved the bag of clothes that Mrs. Lane had delivered to her. It contained 2 sets of fresh clothes, which suited her perfectly as she planned to stay at her aunt's place for the next couple of days. As Serenity prepared to leave, her phone rang. She noticed it was her best friend calling and answered the call. Her friend informed her that she could use the Stones' chauffeur to drive her to the Buchan's residence, where a private jet would be waiting for her. Serenity appreciated the gesture. Zachary had a private plane, but it was currently unavailable in Wilkes-Barre. She was grateful that Josh had arranged for his brother's private jet to transport her. After ending the call, Serenity quickly grabbed her bag of clothes and headed out of the room. However, she encountered Clive and his wife, who had just come out of their bedroom. Serenity explained the situation to them, informing them that Zachary had fallen ill and she needed to see him. She mentioned that Josh had arranged for a car to take her to the Buchan's residence, where she would wait for the private jet. Clive expressed concern and asked about Zachary's condition. Serenity explained that Zachary had a severe cold, and she had noticed his worsening condition during their video chat earlier. She had advised him to see a doctor, but he didn't listen and only relied on medication from the pharmacy, which proved to be ineffective. He didn't respond to her calls and messages, and during their video call, he mentioned that he couldn't hold out much longer before ending the call. Clive was initially speechless but eventually showed understanding. He realized that in the past, he would simply endure a cold for a few days without seeking much medical attention. However, with Alice around, things had changed for the better as she would provide him with home remedies and alternative medicine whenever he fell ill. Alice had an uncle who specialized in alternative medicine, so whenever someone in the family fell ill, Alice would seek remedies from him. Clive, on the other hand, couldn't stand the taste of alternative medicine and preferred to take care of himself to avoid getting sick. He would even hide his occasional sniffles from his wife, Alice. Seeing Serenity's worry for Zachary reminded Clive of Alice's concern for him. He reassured Serenity, offering to drive her to the Buchan's residence. Serenity expressed her gratitude, and Clive informed Alice to wait for him at home while he accompanied Serenity. Liberty, who had just finished bathing her son, Sunny, overheard the conversation in the hallway and walked out with Sunny in her arms. Seeing the bag in Serenity's hand, Liberty asked where she was going. Serenity explained that Zachary was sick and she needed to see him. Liberty expressed concern and asked if Zachary needed to be hospitalized or if he had overexerted himself. Liberty's mind wandered, considering what would happen if something happened to Zachary since they had only been married for a few months and hadn't even planned their wedding. Serenity reassured Liberty that it was just a cold but that she was worried and needed to be with Zachary. She mentioned that she was heading to the Buchan's residence, and a colleague of Zachary's would arrange a private plane for her to get there. Liberty, relieved that it was just a cold, encouraged Serenity to go and take care of Zachary. Clive interjected, informing Liberty that he would be driving Serenity to the Buchan's residence. Liberty thanked Clive for his assistance, and the three of them walked down the stairs together. Before leaving, Serenity informed Aunt Audrey about Zachary's illness and apologized for not being able to attend the party the next night. Mrs. Stone expressed concern for Zachary's well-being and told Serenity not to worry about the party and to focus on taking care of her husband. She also asked how Serenity planned to get to the Buchan's residence. Serenity informed Mrs. Stone that arrangements had been made for her to get to Zachary, likely through the private jet provided by his boss. Mrs. Stone gave her approval, knowing that the Yorks had a private jet. Clive drove Serenity out of the Stones' residence, heading towards their destination. During the drive, Clive brought up a somewhat unreasonable request to Serenity. He mentioned that Elisa had been in love with Mr. York, and even though she claimed to have let go of her feelings, it takes time to fully move on from someone you've loved for years. Serenity could relate to this, thinking about Sean and how he couldn't let go of his feelings for her immediately. Serenity agreed, stating that it's easy to fall in love but hard to forget someone you truly care about. She acknowledged that she might need a long time to get over her feelings for Zachary and face reality. Clive then suggested that Serenity refrain from mentioning her husband and his company in front of Elisa, as it might remind her of Mr. York. Serenity understood his point and agreed to avoid discussing her husband in Elisa's presence. Clive apologized for his request, explaining that he was looking out for his sister. He didn't approve of Elisa's pursuit of Mr. York, knowing that Mr. York didn't reciprocate her feelings. He believed that Elisa needed to experience her own pain in order to move on, even though she appeared happy on the surface. Serenity expressed her belief that Elisa would eventually move on and find someone for herself. Clive hoped the same and mentioned his intention to keep Elisa away when Zachary returned to visit his mother. He trusted that his parents would also keep the matter from Elisa. Clive praised Elisa, saying she was a nice and strong girl, but many people misunderstood her due to her heiress status. Serenity defended Elisa, describing her as sensitive and genuine, someone who didn't care about putting up a facade because she had the means to live life on her own terms. Clive acknowledged that Serenity had a good understanding of Elisa's personality, even though they hadn't known each other for long. He complimented Serenity on being a good judge of character. Serenity had been deceived not only by Zachary but also by his entire family. However, during the pleasant conversation with Clive on their way to the Buchan's residence, Serenity found the journey to be short. They arrived at the residence, but Josh was still having dinner with Jasmine and her brother. Jasmine was concerned about Serenity but reassured knowing that Josh had taken care of everything. Upon Serenity's arrival at the Buchan's residence, Jasmine called her to make sure she had safely reached there. Serenity expressed her gratitude to Josh through Jasmine and promised to thank him personally when she returned. Serenity mentioned that Josh had suggested getting the doctor to give Zachary injections as a reminder not to tough it out when he catches a cold, as he is afraid of needles. Serenity saw this as an opportunity to teach Zachary a lesson and agreed to the plan. Serenity boarded the Buchan's private plane and Clive reminded her to send a text message once she arrived. The plane took off, and Serenity embarked on an overnight journey to be with Zachary, reminiscent of the time when Zachary rushed to her side after finding out she had been drinking at a bar. Now, it was Serenity's turn to worry about him and rush to be by his side. Despite their fights and conflicts, they still cared deeply for each other, which she believed to be a manifestation of love. After the plane departed, Clive thanked the Buchan's butler and left the residence in his car. Zachary, unaware that Serenity was on her way, regained consciousness in the hospital. The manager and deputy manager of the branch company were by his bedside, relieved to see him awake. The manager would be held responsible if anything were to happen to Mr. York. Despite having confidence in the manager and appointing him to a managerial role, the subsidiary company had faced significant challenges, requiring the CEO's intervention. The CEO himself had caught a severe cold and fever due to exhaustion, but fortunately, it was detected early. The manager couldn't help but fear the consequences if the illness had persisted and posed a risk to the CEO's life. Zachary, waking up in the hospital, tried to sit up but was advised to lie back down by the nurse. He realized that he had taken a cold medicine from the pharmacy, but it had not been effective. His temperature continued to rise until he eventually passed out. Zachary wondered if Serenity, his wife, was worried about him. The manager explained that he had received a call from Mr. Buchan, who had used the spare key to enter Zachary's apartment and had taken him to the hospital when he found him unconscious. They expressed their concern about Zachary's condition, emphasizing that the medicine he had bought didn't provide much relief. Zachary's body temperature had reached 41 degrees Celsius by the time he arrived at the hospital. The doctor diagnosed him with viral flu, which caused a fluctuating fever and cough. Due to his fainting episode, the doctor recommended that Zachary stay in the hospital for a few days. The manager refrained from discussing hospitalization with Zachary directly, fearing his refusal. However, Mr. Buchan had informed them that Zachary's wife was on her way and would be able to convince him to stay in the hospital. This relieved the manager, who understood the importance of Zachary receiving proper medical care. Zachary asked about Josh, and the manager explained that Serenity had contacted Mr. Buchan to inform him about Zachary's condition. When offered water, Zachary accepted and drank it with the prescribed pills provided by the doctor. He didn't feel hungry and had a scratchy throat, so he continued to drink water to alleviate the discomfort. Curious about his current temperature, Zachary asked, and the manager informed him that the fever hadn't subsided, with a recent measurement of 38.9 degrees Celsius. The doctor had recommended observation and suggested that Zachary spend the night in the hospital. Looking at the dark sky through the window, Zachary realized it was past midnight, and since he was still on 4 drips and his fever persisted, he would indeed need to stay the night. Zachary requested his phone, which the manager promptly handed to him. Acknowledging the late hour, Zachary advised the manager to go home and rest, as he would call the nurse for a replacement bag when needed. He was informed that he would require 3 bags of 4 fluids, to which Zachary commented on the significant quantity, wishing that the IV drip could go faster. The manager and deputy manager inform Zachary that Serenity is on her way and will be arriving soon. Zachary becomes curious about how she found out about his illness, and they reveal that Josh had informed Serenity and arranged for her to come. Zachary requests some chicken soup, fresh fruits, and desserts for Serenity. The manager promptly heads out to find the items, as the hospital is located on a street with various restaurants and cafes that might still be open. Meanwhile, Serenity calls Zachary, but he assumes she is still on the plane and unable to answer. The manager returns with the requested items and receives a call from Serenity, indicating that she has landed. He rushes to pick her up and brings her to the hospital. Zachary instructs the manager to refer to Serenity as Miss Hunt instead of the CEO's wife when they meet. When Serenity enters the ward, she notices that Zachary is asleep and assumes he is still unconscious. The deputy manager informs her that Zachary fell asleep just before her arrival. He explains his condition, mentioning the viral flu, intermittent fever, and the doctor's recommendation for a few days of hospitalization. Serenity sits by Zachary's bed and strokes his face, expressing concern about his fever. The manager elaborates on the doctor's advice for Zachary to stay in the hospital until his fever subsides and his coughing improves. Zachary, pretending to be asleep, is taken aback by the doctor's decision, realizing that it may extend his business trip. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Voice Novel, and follow Voice Novel on Facebook, so you will get notified whenever a new video is uploaded. Thank you.